This is the Nano-K circular polarizing filter by K&F. It's a very cheap polarizing filter coming in at just £13 on Amazon, making it one of the cheapest filters on Amazon. However, it has got a problem which will make probably a lot of you not want to buy this filter by the end of the video. So stick around and watch the whole video. Let's get into it. So I bought this filter last year, my 35mm Sigma Art lens, and it worked a treat. I took it on holiday and it just took some pretty good photos. I had no issue at all with it. It was just a very decent filter. However, when I got this, my 7200 f4 IS Canon lens, I started to notice a problem with this filter. For some reason, you're not able to get sharp resolving images at high focal lengths. So when you put this filter on anything from, I don't know, like let's say just 10mm all the way up to 100, there's no real issue. However, the further zoomed in you go, the more of an issue this filter creates, making the resolution quite noticeably worse. Now, I looked at loads of groups and loads of forums to try and find out why this might be happening, and a lot of other people had a similar problem, not with just this filter but filters in general. Now, the problem is, it's just bad glass. At the end of the day, that is just the simple problem. And the only way I found that out is instead of using just this filter, I had to buy another filter. And not just one, but I bought another filter after that. So these two filters are a lot more expensive than the cheap first filter I bought, but I'm going to be explaining why they might be worth it instead. Now, I'm not sponsored by any of these brands. Let me just get that off straight off the bat. I'm not sponsored by anyone, so I have no incentive to give anyone a positive review. So let's just break it down, shall we? This is the Hoya Fusion 1, a £36 polarizing filter that has 18 layers of coating, same as the Nano-K. And then this is the K&F Nano X. It's the line above the Nano-K, and it comes in at £46, so £10 more than the Fusion. So those £10 for 10 extra layers though, because this is 28 layers of coatings. What that really means, I don't really understand it because I can't notice a massive difference. The only thing I can see between all three of these filters is a slight change in colour between them. For the Nano-K, you have quite an obvious green effect coming through. With the Hoya, it's slightly more blue, and then it's ever so slightly green with the Nano X. Now, on a bit of a side note, which of these has the best box? The Nano-K? It's quite terrible. It's just a cheap plastic and it bulges slightly. The Hoya? It's more premium plastic, well, as the light dies, which is actually quite symbolic for this filter. I'll explain that in a minute. But this box is quite standard really, nothing special. The Nano X, however, is quite nice because on the inside of the lid is actually padded foam, so if you were taking off another filter, you can just rest it on here without any worry of it getting scratched while you change onto your other filter. So points for Nano X really. So the Nano X versus the Fusion, that's the real battle of this video. This is a £10 price difference. Is it worth getting this over this? That's the question. Now, I really love the Hoya's build quality. It feels great to hold and you're able to rotate the bezel really smoothly, especially compared to the K&F filters, which are very stiff to turn, and that does actually make a big difference in the field. It's just a great quality of life difference. Now, there is a big problem with the Fusion 1, and that is it lets in a lot less light than the Nano X and the Nano-K. Every single polarizing filter will restrict your light access, so you normally expect to lose one stop of light. The Nano-K and the Nano X both restrict your light access to one stop of light. So what that looks like in the real world would be 200 ISO, perfect exposure without a filter. With either of those two, you then have to up your ISO to 400 to get the same exposure. However, the Fusion 1 has a bit of a problem because it's not one stop like the other two. It's one stop plus 2/3, wow, as it goes dark again as I talk about the Hoya. So you would expect to increase your ISO from 200 without a filter all the way up to 640 ISO with this filter just to get the same exposure, which is a big game breaker for a lot of people. A lot of people are not going to want to do that. So if you're going to introduce more noise to the image and you're getting the same sort of resolution as you would for this, I think most people are going to choose this. So which of these would I recommend and which would I not? Let's start off with the cheapest. the Nano-K. It's a very affordable filter, and if you're getting into photography and you want to try your first polarizing filter, I see no reason to stop you buying this. Do expect to lose a bit of image quality if you're going above 100mm, but you know, it's a cheap filter, and I think it's a great way to try and, you know, approach a polarizing filter. If you're a bit more advanced or you want just a higher grade filter for telephoto lenses, it's between these two filters. Now, which would I choose personally? The Hoya, it feels fantastic to turn, the bezel is very smooth and its build quality is pretty excellent. The Nano X is pretty well built as well, but it's very reluctant to come off your lenses and it doesn't turn as smoothly. However, this one has 28 layers of coating, this one has 18, this one's £10 more expensive, this one's £10 cheaper. So which would I choose? Well, most times I have to say I've been picking up the Nano X, simply because it loses less light, and when I'm taking photos of wildlife, I want as much light as possible to come through my lens, and this filter allows me to keep my ISO relatively low compared to the Hoya. Now, the Hoya is not a bad filter at all, and if you're in between these and you can't afford the Nano X, just buy the Hoya, you will not notice a big difference. I'm only saying the Nano X simply because I have the Nano X. If I was gonna just have one filter and I already had the Hoya, I wouldn't even consider buying this. So genuinely, these are very, very, very close, and as far as functionality goes, they're very similar. You will not notice a massive difference in photos, but if I had to just pick one, it would be the Nano X. However, if you've already got a Hoya, do not upgrade. This is just as good in reality in most 99% of use cases. I really hope this video has been informative. I've tried to include as much information and try and be as least biased as possible. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more photography videos like this in the future, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's free after all, and it does show your support. Thank you ever so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Goodbye.